how much time you took to get your first job into iOS?
So I basically left my healthcare job at the beginning of 2024, and I've been working independently, publishing 2 apps, working end-to-end the full process independently. I have worked with a designer for one of them, and also with a friend who's a back-end developer to make me an API for the first one too, because it's a really good step through. I've done the 100 days of SwiftUI.
If I may ask, which apps did you publish to the App Store and what were those?
Like I said, I made 2 apps. So my first app called Baby Namer, and so that one's called Babble Counter.
What did you find interesting? UIKit or SwiftUI?
Yeah, doing much more SwiftUI focused stuff because I just got a bit too annoyed with it.
Hello everyone. In this episode of podcast, we have Emily. Emily was working in healthcare domain, and it changed her career to 180 degree, and now she's working in tech, that too into iOS. In this episode, we will talk about her journey, her reason to leave healthcare, profession like healthcare, which is noble profession, and chose tech and that too iOS to work in the future. Without further delay, let's welcome Emily. Emily, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Kishab. Thank you so much for having me.
Lovely. Emily, I just want to know why you left healthcare, because healthcare is such a noble profession and people really want to get into it. I really want to help people. Why you left healthcare and chose tech to make your career further?
So I worked in healthcare for a little over 10 years.
Okay.
I went straight through university, straight into healthcare. And for that time in my life, it was absolutely what I wanted to do. I worked in clinical hematology, specifically in stem cell transplant medicine.
Okay.
So super interesting stuff. And I became very specialist in it. I was doing procedures independently. I was very, very proficient at what I did. But the role I worked as was a physician associate. It's a role that's just based in the UK. A physician assistant role exists in the US, but they don't exactly translate. And I started to feel a lot like I wasn't progressing in my career. Like I said, I'd become very specialist, but I was reaching a point where I was thinking, I'm not going any further in this. And then I had 2 children, and that definitely changed things too. There was a real, the work-life balance was not good. I had 2 small children, but I didn't see them because I was commuting into the city 4 days a week, long days. I'd come home and I'd argue them into bed at the end of the day. And that wasn't exactly the kind of, the reason that I had children was not for that. So yeah, it was a decision that sort of was bubbling away in my mind for quite a while. And then when I had my second daughter, her birth was quite traumatic. And so it really changed my views on life and what I wanted from life. Yeah, so it was something that it was basically her arrival switched things for me and made me decide to take the leap.
Well, being a full-time mother and a full-time professional is a tough job indeed. And, right. But if you can help us with, what was your education into? Was it into healthcare itself?
Yeah, so I started off, when I left school, I went and did a human biology degree.
Okay.
I didn't at the time want to do medicine, so I did something relating to it. And then when I graduated, that was my undergrad. When I finished that, I went on to do this postgraduate study in physician associate studies. So it's very specific. And then that was 2 years. So it was 5 years at university all up, and then you're out into clinical work. I was not a doctor. That's a big thing that is often confused. I supported the medical team, but I was not a doctor, but able to still specialize in a similar sort of way. And so I did those two. That was postgraduate diplomas, and then I also did some work in education alongside work, and so I was a lecturer alongside, just to keep the education theme going.
Is it because like a lot of load and pressure is now on healthcare professionals in UK?
It was one of the reasons. For me personally, there were a lot of reasons. There was increasing pressure on healthcare workers in the UK. There were junior doctor strikes, wanting better pay, better conditions. And so physician associates were helping to support the teams still within hospital while those were going on. But also, there is just this increasing demand on healthcare staff, and there's not enough resources to basically help try and meet those demands. It would be a whole discussion in itself going down the line of all of that.
And once you, as you said, like once the second baby came into your life, it was a transitory moment for you. Then how do you realize that why tech?
So I always had to. My husband is tech-based, so that's always been around in our relationship. We've been together for 10 years now. And so when I was working as a physician associate, I decided to try and make a revision website as part of my lecturing to support students. And it was very much just data entry, trying to create this enormous revision site of all the conditions that we were supposed to understand and be able to diagnose and treat and manage. And it sort of lost momentum because I just lost enthusiasm for it. The data entry was just mind-numbing. So that got put to bed, really. It's something that was sort of like, well, maybe I could revisit that later on. Then life carried on. I got married, I had children. And when this decision to change happened, it was the thing of, do I try and pursue this web development stuff? And actually, I just didn't have the enthusiasm for it. And so it was the thought of apps and things that you have in your daily life. And I wanted to make things that made life easier, that solved real world problems on a personal level. And so that was kind of where things came from. I left my job and essentially just took a dive into an iOS developer course, thinking I'm just going to do it and see how it goes. And from there, I was hooked. Really, I was really in it, and so that's how we got there.
And if I may ask, which iOS course you took?
So I started off with a couple, so that I found one through the app brewery.
Brewery,
and so that was looking at sort of storyboard and UIKit stuff. But then I moved on. So alongside that, I also did a Coding with Chris introduction to iOS. But I also use YouTube, Sean Allen, bit of Swiftful Thinking. It's sort of a bit of a mix of lots of different things.
Correct. Once you started learning, how much time you took to get your first job into iOS?
So I basically left my healthcare job at the beginning of 2024. And I've been working independently, publishing 2 apps,
Wow.
working end to end, the full process independently. I have worked with a designer for one of them, and also with a friend who's a back-end developer to make me a API for the first one too. So I am working independently at the minute, but as we'll probably talk about a bit later, my plan now is to get myself out into a role within a company.
Understood. So you are, as of now, on your own. You work on your own. So can I say that you're available for freelancing?
Yes.
Or you do it right now?
So it's something I'm definitely interested in. I have been talking with, you develop a big mums network when you have a school child. And what I'd always said when I left healthcare was, I'd love to do healthcare apps, systems to make healthcare better. And that is definitely something that is still there in my mind, given my background. So there's a mum in the playground who is a doctor who has approached me for with the idea of an app for a research project that she's doing. So that could, I think I'm now feeling that I need to get out into the world and meet with clients, meet with team members, things like that. That's a big thing I miss from healthcare, is the team
Spirit or team members around you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just having other people that you're working on a project with that you can just be talking to. There's only so much you can say at home to your cat before you start thinking, I need to talk to a real human being instead.
If I may ask, which apps did you publish to the App Store and what were those?
So I made 2 apps, and they relate a lot to the stage of life that I was in when I decided to make the change. So my first app is an app called Baby Namer, which is a baby naming app. The UI is a card swiping stack, and then you and your partner both have the app, and you match on names that you like. The second app was, again, it was relating to my youngest daughter started to talk, and I got a form through the post saying, how many words is your child saying based on their age and their development stage? And I went, I don't know. And so I was like, oh, I know, I'll make an app for that. And so that one's called Babble Counter. And it literally allows you to, as your child is there babbling away, you record what they're saying, and it will record it, let you know for that stage, like for that age, how many words they should be saying, and then it compares it.
But one thing which I liked is your spirit to get the things solved using tech, a problem that you faced on your personal level, as you said before. But that spirit of solving a problem using tech is a key, because that makes you different from other techies. Other techies just solve the problem, but you choose to solve the problem because you want it to get it solved, which I find is that makes you different from other people. Great. And if you work in a healthcare domain, that would be really helpful because you have the experience in working in healthcare sector. So you can connect with the problem that you're going to solve using tech with iOS application. So do you think that the knowledge that you have from your previous experience is helping you out into tech?
Yeah, I think so. I think in healthcare, in medicine, you need attention to detail. You need to be able to recognize problems or particular symptoms that someone is telling you. You need to be able to recognize that and take that forward, but also making sure that you're looking at the bigger picture, that you're taking everything. And I know at the beginning of my journey into iOS, I definitely I felt I had moments when I got my head stuck in the sand, where I needed to do something, had the idea in my head, but I just couldn't see the bigger picture. That has taken, so with time, I think actually stepping back and saying, remember what you used to do. You'd walk into a room and there'd be a patient in front of you and they're saying, I've got this problem. What are you going to do about it? So actually taking that step back and saying, okay, let's break this down.
And when you started your journey into iOS, you said that you started from App Brewery, you started from Code with Chris, you started from Paul Hudson's Hacking with Swift. Where did you find the challenges in learning?
In the early months, I really, really struggled with the idea that it's okay not to have everything up here. In healthcare, in order to qualify, that mindset has taken a long time to shake. In development, my husband would say it to me a lot. He's saying, it's okay not to know. You can just look it up. That took me a long, long time to shake. Yeah, to just say, it's okay that I don't know it, because like iOS development, it's constantly changing. There is this massive breadth of it. There's different parts to it.
You are lucky that you have someone who can tell you that it's okay to not to know. Because many people who don't have some people to get to tell them that, hey, it's okay not to know, because there's a lot of things that you still don't know. And you have to figure it out. You have to get it to know. That mindset, I think, the early you get it, the better it is for your peace of mind.
Absolutely.
Right now, we have many options available. We have AI, we have ChatGPT. If you have used any AI cursor tools like AI ID tools like Cursor or Windsurf, that is also helpful to us. It's making our life easy. But back in those times, when there is no one to help you out, because I was in a place where I was a single developer, solo developer for a company, and I don't know much of the things. So whatever problems I get into and I don't find the way out, I generally go into Stack Overflow and post my question over there, and people get to reply to me. So that was the only way out that time. But yes, and asking for help is a way forward, because then only you can move. Otherwise, you will get stuck.
Yeah, knowing that there is people out there you can reach out to, like you said, you use Stack Overflow, but even the community in Swift is so nice and really approachable.
And how many downloads there are into your apps?
So obviously my baby naming app is in a section of the App Store where there are hundreds of baby naming apps. I think that I've probably had maybe a couple of hundred downloads on that one. And then I think probably similar for Babble Counter.
So it's free of cost.
It is. Yeah, it is.
And since you already developed the apps, I assume it is in SwiftUI. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it in
Yes.
SwiftUI? SwiftUI, both the applications. But you started working in UIKit and a storyboard with App Brewery. What did you find interesting? UIKit or SwiftUI?
I am definitely in the SwiftUI camp. I found UIKit. I find SwiftUI a lot more intuitive. Yeah, doing much more SwiftUI focused stuff, because I think I just got a bit too annoyed with it.
And did you use any async await or combine to make the data flow in your applications, or it is just normal callbacks?
So I did do some async await stuff. Yep, combine things. They in themselves can be, again, where I said about the bigger picture stuff of actually stepping back and saying, okay, what is happening here? What's the flow? Why am I needing to use these. And I mean, I've got a whiteboard that I would use to literally draw it out to help me understand the flow of data or processes, or why isn't it working? Like, why is it freezing? And so to step back and understand the process that I've actually got in there.
And now, what is a roadmap for you for your future learning? So I want to know the roadmap that has helped you better in your past, and the roadmap that you're thinking for yourself now to learn iOS development better.
But again, I didn't know what sort of was needed, what jobs in the industry were looking for. And so you look at all these resources and think, oh yeah, that one looks okay. I do think hacking with Swift really is brilliant for learners going from nothing, because Paul is so good at explaining. He's got thousands of videos. I think if I was talking to myself 2 years ago, I probably would have started doing his courses from the beginning, because it's a really good step through. I've done the 100 days of SwiftUI. I mentioned I'm really keen, I think, to now work in a team. Working independently has been great. I'm learning so much, but I really want to get into a team environment for more learning, for mentoring, just the general support network that you get.
And for applying jobs in UK, how do you apply? Is it through LinkedIn? Is it through recruiters? Is it through online portals? You're just going to companies' HR LinkedIn page, messaging them, cold email people? How do you do that?
I'm definitely not a cold emailer or a cold caller kind of person. So I've been using Indeed, lots of job listings on there, and also LinkedIn. Though the jobs are basically the same across those. There's the same job posted across both places. One of the big things that I found very useful was networking. And so actually increasing my Swift network through LinkedIn. And so I've been to Swiftcraft conference. I've been to some meetups in London, and I'm going to Swift Leeds next month. And those are again all part of the grand plan for networking, getting my name out there, to say, like, I'm looking for a position.
You talk about conferences. How was the Swiftcraft conference that you attended?
Really good. I've been to medical conferences before this, but this was obviously very different. There were some talks there that were completely over my head. There are some people coming across from America who have been doing Swift for many, many, many years, and they know it's the absolute bread and butter of what they do. And so they were giving talks that were completely beyond my understanding. But similarly, there were also talks that were really, I had a few little light bulb moments of, oh, that's how that works, or that's how that's applied. So from the educational side of things, that was brilliant. That was great. And then networking too. I spoke a lot with different people about accessibility, all sorts of things that you can get into. I found it really, really interesting, which is why I'm going to Swift Leeds to keep that momentum going.
Correct. I think you will have a good networking over there at Swift Leeds.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. And do you have the message that you really want to give to our viewers from your journey, from your experience? One thing is very sure, that the moment you find that you want to change, the moment you find that you're not growing enough in whatever domain you are into, try to move and get out, because you just have to grow. You cannot stop growing. So that is one journey which I think I want to give from your experience, from your journey, to our viewers. Please add on top of that.
Yeah, I think I'm in my mid-30s, and at that age, particularly when you've had children as well, not just for women, but also for men, I think when you're in your 30s, there's this expectation that you should be in your job that you will stay in forever. But I think it's actually having the insight to know that if what you're in is not right, then don't stay there, because you won't be working at your full potential if you're not enjoying what you're doing. And I think that was a real big thing. It was like, if I'm not enjoying healthcare, I'm not delivering the best care I can. Like I should, I need to do something about this. And so I think it's terrifying to actually make that break and say, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. Absolutely terrifying. And particularly if there's this financial side of it as well, that you need to say, okay, well, I'm stepping away. I'm going to do something else. And so, I think it's having that bravery or that support. I'm very lucky that I have family support that's allowed me to make this change.
I heard that before going to bed, have some book to read, but I'm learning from you that before going to bed, have some development.
It's any time you can get in my house.
Great. Thank you, Emily. It was lovely talking to you, getting into your journey, getting into your experience, getting to know from you. We're going to host you again in the future. Thank you for your time.
No worries. Thank you so much.